Greetings, friends of the apocalypse. This is podcast at Ground Zero, your home for the apocalypse for podcast number 65, Shift. I am Jared the Apocalypse Nerd Wallace. He is Adam Bomb Glancy. We are back again. As we know, I sent out some transmissions from the bunker, just kind of let people know, hey, we're still here. I know people, think we were gone and eaten by mutants, but
no, the stickies have not gotten us yet.
Yet is the optimal word. Yet, but but we're back. Like I said, in some of the blogs, we had some shit going on. Travel. I had a hurricane. I had some surgery. It's just been too much shit going on. But we're gonna get back on track here and continue to.
Show them your scar.
Okay. We'll show them the scar. Again, it's all right. The scar is going to be tied to, and I'm not going to make the official announcement for it yet, but I'm going to mention what we're going to do. We're going to have a contest. Okay, this is not the official announcement. I'm going to make an official post, and that'll be the start of it, and we'll have a deadline. Okay, I have picked up at the Awesome Used Bookstore in Jacksonville. Actually, they had like 6 copies of it there. It's the weirdest thing. It's like it's a book that I've rarely found, and all of a sudden there's like 6 of them. Andrea Norton, No Night Without Stars. Okay, this is another one of their post-apocalyptic novels. The original one that people probably know is Daybreak 2025 or Starman's Son. This is a lot less known, but I found a fucking stack of them there. It was the weirdest thing. Okay, so we're gonna have a contest for our fans to win the copy of this book because it's a really good post-apocalyptic story. It's very Gamma World-ish. It is. You got tribes, mutants. You have a cybernetic installation. You have an insane think tank. It is very Gamma World. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. It's not a massive book, so it's pretty easy to read. But we're gonna have a contest for somebody to win a copy of this book, and the contest is going to be related to this. So let's see if I could turn so people could see. As we can see now, can you see it, Scott?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we got a nice scar there now. The boring story is, I had surgery because I had a tumor removed. Not cancer. It was all benign. It was fine. But I got this big-ass scar now. Don't have a lot of feeling in the side of my ear and face now. But that's boring. And we here in the apocalypse like excitement. So we're going to have a contest that you, the viewer, are going to write a story very, very short. It's probably like me and Scott were talking about, probably 250 words or less. So that'll give you like a good paragraph action sequence, because we don't need a doctoral dissertation, just a brief story. You are going to tell us, how did I really get this scar? And it's got to be set in the apocalypse. Okay. So for 250 words or less, you're going to tell us how the apocalypse nerd got this new scar in the apocalypse for a chance to win No Night Without Stars, okay? And then me and Scott are going to read the entries, and we're going to be the judges, and the best one that we like is going to be the winner.
Exactly. We may even do a dramatic reading if it's like, a 200-word. That's real short. We could knock that out in a couple minutes.
Oh, yeah, and we assume it'll be really good because that'll be the winner. So... Yeah. So that's gonna be coming up. I'll probably announce that probably within the week. We'll probably give everybody a few weeks, a month, or something like that. Not a short period of time, but it's definitely before the holidays. We want people to get it before the holidays. Maybe before Thanksgiving. So we'll give people 2 weeks or something to make submissions.
I'm planning to submit one myself about how you tripped over an old drive belt from the last of the Viet interceptors, tripped and fell and cut your neck on an open can of Dinky Dee dog food.
See, that's exactly that's the kind of stuff we need, folks. Just something out, whether I was in a knife fight with a sticky, or I was captured by androids, and I was in a cybernetic installation, and
that's where they put the tracker in. That's where they put the tracking device in.
Yeah, anything like that. Something definitely it's got to be post-apocalyptic, and it's going to obviously be post-apocalyptic. So that's what we're going to, that's going to be the contest to win a copy of that book. So we got that coming up. So because I was like, I need to do something because we haven't been around for a while. So I want to, do something for the folks. So So we got that going on. What else has been going on? It's just too much stuff going on. I got a bunch of post-apocalyptic gaming type news to talk about. Like number one, me and Scott were in Gen Con in August. And one of the things I got to play test was, not play test, I just did like a demo of it, was the Fallout board game that's coming out from Fantasy Flight Games. So that's last status I looked, it's on the boat. So I think it's supposed to be out by the end of the year, theoretically. That was a fun game. It's based, heavily on the Fallout 4 setting. With all the characters in Boston, and there's going to be expansions apparently, but it looked pretty interesting. It can be played anywhere from like 1 to 4 players. So that's going to be coming out. That should be pretty cool. Got to look at some of the figures for the Fallout Tactical Miniatures game by Modifius. I think it's Modifius. Looks interesting. If tactical miniatures games are your thing, then it's pretty good. It should be pretty good. They made an announcement for the pricing for the figures, and I'm out already. It's like, yes, I know miniatures games are expensive. People played Warhammer. It's like, here's my army I spent $450 on. I know miniature tactical games are expensive. I wouldn't be actually playing it. It was just something I thought would be cool to have the miniatures, but for that price point to buy, I think to be all in, you'd have to spend like over $1,000. And some people were like, "Oh, that's a good price." I'm like,
well, that's the guys who've had to move into one room in their house because every other room is filled with miniatures. I mean, we know those guys. They exist.
Oh yeah,
they're not kidding about their miniatures. Now, for me, I would point out that there is a Fallout knockoff line done in metal by a guy named guy whose site is like Cousin Vinny's Miniatures or something. Those you don't have to be in for $1,000. You can get individual, miniatures of super mutants, Enclave Trooper, a couple of different troopers from the Brotherhood of Steel. A couple of things like that, and it's not quite the same buy-in if you're just looking for a few miniatures and you're not interested in a big tactical game. Plus, they're made of metal. I'd throw that out for people who might still be interested in some miniatures.
Oh, and that's the thing is with the Fallout tactical ones, they're resin, like you mentioned, so they're not metal at all. That's probably why people think, oh, they're cheap because they're not made out of metal. They're resin. So. But for the price point, I can't get into it. It's just not something that's going to happen. But the Fallout, the board game looks pretty good. And also, I think somebody else is putting out. I don't know who's doing it. I can't remember now. I'll have to look it up and post about it later. Somebody else is doing a Fallout miniatures game, but it's not like I don't think it's a tactical miniature game like the Modifius one. It's something else. I don't know. I'll have to research again. It's like I saw it in passing. I'll have to look at it, but there's another one coming out. I also got to see, but they didn't have, and I posted about the Planet of the Apes board game that's coming out from USopoly. No, it's not USopoly. It's IDW Games. IDW has been primarily a comic book company, but now they have a game division. So they're putting out a Planet of the Apes board game based off the first movie. It could be played either solo or like up to 4 players. They just had the samples there, but not the actual game. But that's coming out. And another post-apocalyptic. And what else did I see there?
We played The End Is Nigh.
Yes, we played The End Is Nigh, which we posted the video for that. When we were at Gen Con, we played The End Is Nigh. I got together the guys from Mystic Ape Games. We played a playthrough of it. Fun game, quick game, simple game. Fun. You could see
play it 3 or 4 times in a night, maybe 30 minutes a game tops.
Oh yeah. Once you know how the game works, ours took a little bit longer because we were learning the game. But I figure it could be a 15-20 minute game. No problem. So that was a fun game that's available on their website. Again, I posted all that when I posted it on the blog, and then it's up on the YouTube channel. I also got to play. I guess it's not really, but I guess it kind of it's post-apocalyptic if you want to be. Is the Thing board game that's coming out from USopoly. So it kind of could be a pre-apocalypse because if the Thing gets out, it could take over the world and destroy the world. So it could be apocalyptic. I don't think it's that much of a stretch, but got to play that. That's supposed to be it's USopoly is putting it out in conjunction with I think with like Mondo Tees, which is a t-shirt company. But again, now they have a gaming arm division, something with Project Raygun. So but you can just look up the Thing board game, and you can find it under USopoly. Got the demo of that fun game. Can't wait for that to come out. It's supposed to come out like in the next couple weeks. Like I think it's either the end of this month or beginning of next month. So that'll be coming out. Now, that was good. So
don't forget the largesse, the incredible largesse of Fallen Dominion Studios.
What is it? Fallen
Dominion. They loaded us up with Fallen Lands.
Oh, Fallen Lands. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We got that game, and I'm going to reach out to John. Fallen Lands was a Kickstarter that came out. It was last year. It's a board game, post-apocalyptic. It's a big, beefy game. A lot of stuff. We're going to get them on the show to talk about their game. So I guess I'm going to reach out to him to get his schedule because his schedule's a little tight because he works overnights. So, but we're going to get together with him to talk about their game. So that was another game, and I saw some other post-apocalyptic stuff down there too. There was another game I saw. Oh God, there was so much at Gen Con. It's like I barely even scratched the surface of what was there. It's like I wasn't vending this year, and I still feel like I accomplished nothing because because there was so much going on.
You're finally out from behind the booth, and you still didn't manage to cover the dealer room.
Nope.
Now you just gotta check through it and target your stops, because otherwise it's just it's a zoo.
Oh yeah,
zoo and a circus.
It's almost gotten too big. It's like I'm really kind of like.
Just be grateful it's not Dragon Con. Apparently, I had a friend of ours went down to Dragon Con to scout it out as a potential location and discovered that Dragon Con is not held in a convention center.
Oh no, it's held in it's spread over hotels.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of hotels which are not connected by skywalks, and so you can't find anything.
No, everybody like I love Dragon Con. It's been going on for decades. It's the party con. It's really the two main things that happen at this show. And yeah, they have dealers, and yes, they play some games. The two biggest things about that show are A, the parties, and B, the people in costume. Those are the two highlights of the show. That's all people go to care about, because they want to dress up and they want to get drunk. That's it. That's why a lot of people go there.
Yeah. I imagine there's a lot of nerd fucking we don't want to have to hear about.
I don't want to talk about that.
But one of the guys who went with Shane was describing the dealer room wasn't big enough and was at capacity. So there was literally a line to get into the dealer room, which I have never seen before. That's a bad move. You've got to wait. You've paid however many dollars to get in, and you're having to wait to get into the dealer room. This is an error. You've made a mistake.
Well, but that's been fine for years, because the show's always been X amount of things. But now with this whole, and I'm not going to go on my diatribe about, the geek culture and how people think it's popular and this, and there's 1,000 conventions popping up, and everybody's going to conventions now who never went before, never cared, and people are on the fringe, and I'm not going to. Because of all that, now these shows that were kind of just okay and at a good capacity are now over capacity. Everybody's like, look, I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, and look at me, I'm at the show. That's what it's all fucking turned into. It's just people trying way too hard to prove that look, I'm not normal, I'm a nerd. It's like, whatever, dude. If you have to try that fucking hard.
We walked back when we were nerds. We had to walk uphill both ways to see an episode of Blake 7. You lazy bastards.
Oh, I just can't. No, it's just that it's so watered down, and it's so people just try way too hard. Okay, yes, I understand the irony that we do a podcast about this shit and I'm talking like that. I get it. Okay, but it's not that I'm not. I'm not being that hypocritical. You know, it's just like I just did it because
I like how I like your caveat. Look, I'm not that hypocritical. I'll accept a certain amount of hypocrisy.
yes.
You know, I have a cap. I have a hypocrisy cap.
Yes, I do. So I get it, you know, but it's just like, but just on day-to-day life, these people try too hard, you know. And it knows. Okay, here's just a counter I had. I went to the ThinkGeek store, and yes, I know I'm part of the fucking problem by going to the ThinkGeek store, but I was in there. I was completely ignored because I was just in cargo shorts and a t-shirt. I looked like a regular dude. They completely fucking ignored me. But as soon as the young girl with the purple hair came in, oh, I love your hair, and they're great, and they're all over them because it's like, well, really, you know what I mean? It's like it's that kind of bullshit that's very superficial. You know, unless I'm over the top and trying to prove how much I am. You know, like listen, I'm in here. I was fucking doing this shit fucking.
If you'd showed up in your Morton Joe costume, you would have been served immediately.
Yeah, no, it's like they totally fucking ignored me. It's like, listen, I have a lot more money to fucking spend than that fucking schmuck with the purple fucking hair. Okay.
First of all, minus at least the cost of the dye job.
Okay.
That money's available.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So it's like that's it. Anyway, but that's another thing. And another game that I saw there, I can't remember the fucking name of it now. But it was by Golden Egg Games. It was another post-apocalyptic game they're coming out with. I didn't get a chance to sit down and demo it. It's a deck building game. You know, like there's a superhero one out. I can't remember the name. Legendary or something. It's a deck building game. There's a board game called Clank that's deck building. It was like a deck building post-apocalyptic game. Looked pretty interesting. So once I find out what that is, I'll post that. So
I am throwing it up. Edge of Humanity.
Yes, thank you.
All right, went straight to their website, which is quite nicely put together, and they have an Edge of Humanity boxed game here.
Yep, that's what it is. Yeah, it's a deck building game. You know, it's like we have cards, and you build your deck as you're going along, and try to accomplish your tasks. And it's deck builders are okay. I played it.
I'm looking at this thing, and it says there's a map, there's cards, there's bullet tokens, life tokens.
Oh yeah. No.
Plastic players and.
Oh yeah, no. It constitutes more than that, but you have a hand of cards.
Oh yes.
As you're playing, and it's like here's your cards you start with, and then there's cards that you could get along the way to build it to do other things. So it's a deck builder.
Okay, I get it. Yes, it actually it's I see the map now on their website. It's not a huge map.
No.
Okay, got it.
So that looked pretty interesting too. So yeah, a lot of post-apocalyptic games coming out. There's just so much stuff out there. I've been out of it. I got to play a little catch up with trying to find all kinds of stuff. And the only other important thing I know is that any geek/nerd worth his salt better be in front of the TV on Friday watching Netflix. That's all I got to say. Because I saw in the back of you here. Is that what's her name from?
Yes, I have a
Archer.
I do in fact have a Pam beach towel that a friend of mine gave me that is now hung up on my door because I know what I like.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought it was. I just wanted to check.
Yep. Now my cartoon crush used to be Velma, but I have now moved on to Pam.
It was never Tarna.
No. He was way out of my league, dude. I'm pretty sure as far as Velma goes from Scooby-Doo, I could hit that.
No hitting Tarna.
No. Well, she might hit me. I don't think that's the same thing. I don't think that's at all the same thing. But yeah, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't for the fact she was a cartoon, I think Pam would sleep with me.
Oh, of course she would. But
I like a girl who sets the bar low. That's all I'm saying. I need to be able to get over that with ease.
All right.
Pole vaulting.
Anyway. we're really digressing because
way off topic. All right, let's stop talking about Pam Poovey, please.
Okay, I'm just saying, and that's all the posts about. Like I said, so watch Stranger Things on Friday, because it's just it's a fantastic show.
Pre-apocalypse. Speaking of pre-apocalypse, there's a movie coming out called Annihilation. Does that ring any bells with you?
Rings a bell. I don't know a lot about it.
Okay, it is based on the Annihilation book, it's a trilogy of books. I've read the first one, and let's see here, Annihilation. Okay, it's the series is called the Southern Reach trilogy, and it is written by this guy named Jeff Vandermeer. First book is Annihilation. Next one is, I believe, Acceptance. Then finally, next one is Authority, and then is Acceptance. And it is kind of a, I guess it's kind of a pre-apocalypse story, and where there is a section of the United States that has sort of fallen into another dimension, or some other dimension is leaking through into ours, and it's like an invasive species. They've tried to get it cordoned off, but it is slowly leaking into our world, and it is bringing a whole lot of no fun with it.
So kind of the Mist-like.
Well, not exactly, because it is super. When I read the book Annihilation, it was super surreal and dreamlike and messed up, and
I just meant from the fact that it's another dimension, it leaks into ours, and that aspect.
Yeah, well, certainly the Mist and Stranger Things have the thing where the government made the hole, and now the whatever's on the other side is coming through. So it's kind of got that, except it's even weirder. Instead of like there being a hole and things are leaking through, it's like the hole just keeps getting bigger. There's an area that is no longer our world, and it just keeps getting bigger. And they refer to that area as Area X. And yeah, it is not going well for anyone.
I have to look into that.
Yeah.
All right.
It's worth a look. It may be worth a look.
All right, Shift. So let's
let's shift over to Shift, shall we?
Let's shift over to Shift. Okay, Shift by Hugh Howey. Shift is the second book in the Silo series. We talked about the first one a while back, Wool, which was the first book in the trilogy. So we have gone through Shift. Actually, I did it quite a few months ago, but we didn't have our shit together. So. Shift is the second book of the series. Now, Shift.
Let's point out that this is a 600-page book.
Yeah, it's a thick book. It is also. Oh, is it really that thick? Let me see that again.
It is. Yeah, this is the copy I have. All right, it is like 2 inches thick.
Oh wow. Closer
to 3, and it is 602 pages in this version.
It's because there was a lot going on in that book. So as we're going through this, we got to really kind of give it as an overview, because I think there's too much stuff to reveal about this book that could spoil shit.
This thing goes in and it picks up storylines and threads from the first book. There'll be things from the first book where somebody talked to somebody on the radio, and then in Shift, you'll suddenly get the other side of that conversation.
Yeah, you'll be like, oh, that was when that was going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, because the book, this book takes place in multiple eras, okay? The beginning of Shift really talks about before whatever apocalypse happened, okay?
Yeah.
What happens is it tells the history, like how did these, because there's a silo. How did the silo get there? The story tells you how the silo, or silos, as we found out in Wool, got there. Okay, it tells you they normally I don't like. At first I was a little like kind of because I hate it when they completely pull back the curtain on a lot of stuff, like that happened with Deathlands.
Yeah, but you thought they pulled back the curtain. They kept pulling back curtain. You're like, oh no, they're revealing too much, and then there's still reveals in the last 10 pages.
Yeah. So, but at first I was kind of hesitant on the reveals, but actually it got interesting. He made it at first. I'm like, oh, it's like, okay, this is boring. We're just telling how it happened. But when they really get the explanations of what happened, how it happened, and again, we're not done finding out what happened. Even at the end of this book, we still don't know everything. But he really got into it, like why it happened, what the plan was, what the plans are. Like I said, normally I'm kind of against that. I don't like it as much, but it's good.
Yeah. I was really, really impressed with the depth and texture of this book. I mean, it could have been written at a faster clip. It could have been slimmed down to be very pulp, very action oriented, just moving from one thing to another. But in order to sort of give the right level of crazy, because everyone's nuts. I mean, that's one of the central factors, is that everyone in the silos, having been there their whole, there's some flavor of crazy, at some point there's some flavor of crazy in the silos. And that was, so you had to stay in their heads a lot. You had to stay in the characters' heads. And
like I said, it jumps around. Like it tells us about before, and eventually, at the end of the arc of the story, you're back to kind of. It actually gets you to the point of where it left off. Yes. With Wool, but then it goes a little bit past it. Okay. Not a lot, but to some extent, it got past it a bit. And it tells how it got up to that point, and there's still stuff to be answered because, as we know, there's more going on than just the silo. We get to hear about the master plan. We get to hear about, what's really going on and who is who and who's what is what. For those who haven't seen the Wool thing, the basic idea is that everyone's in these giant concrete, 50 layer deep, 50 story deep, not story, but 50 level deep, because the levels are not the size of regular stories. No, as which was one of my beasts in the beginning, and you get a little bit more information about that later. Oh no, it's like 100. No, it's like 150. It's like it's deep, because they talk about the hundreds, so it gets over 100 stories. And so there's this giant complex that's down there. They're designed to survive for over 200 years. And preserve humanity from an apocalypse. And at the end of Wool, we got the nasty idea that, boy, this bunker sure is complex. This one bunker we're in sure is complex and well-built and enormous. It would have taken years and years and years to build it. How was it ready to go for the apocalypse? Well, it must have been something that they saw coming. Well, why would they see it coming? There are some possibilities that it could have been like an object, an astrological object that was heading towards the Earth. That's a possibility. Or it could have been, but that's got to be a certainty. You don't build something like this unless you're certain the end is coming. And the only way to be certain is if you're the guys who caused it. That's the big reveal in Wool, is that the silos were built by the people who caused the apocalypse. That you are the descendants of the people who killed the world deliberately for whatever restart they're trying to pull. I wouldn't go much more into that statement. No. Well, and by when he says it could be they caused it, it could be they attacked the Russians, or the Russians, they're the people who pulled the trigger, Yeah. So, and again, it gets into in Shift, but we're not going to talk about what happened, Yeah. They certainly don't. You don't know what the problem is outside in Wool, and when they finally tell you what the problem is outside, which you get in Shift, it's kind of worse than a lot of our apocalypses. It's a really fucking horrible apocalypse. It was a good reveal, and it's, as you read the story, you're like, wow, this is pretty. I got to say, a lot of times I was going through the book, it's like, wow, this is pretty fucked up. A lot of what people are dealing with, and it's not even just what ended the world that was fucked up. It's the people who are living after the world ends that are pretty fucked up, and who these people are and what they do. It's like I said, I don't want to reveal a whole. Normally we're like spoilers and like, this is that, like I said, being. I don't think we could talk too much about it without really spoiling a lot of it, because a lot of it, I was like, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow,
Can we at least talk about the idea of the shift, doing your shift?
I don't know.
Well, I think we can do without revealing too much, but we know that from the first book there is more than one silo.
Yeah, we do. There's more than one silo.
We also find out that there is a silo that's in charge, or there's somebody in charge somewhere.
Okay, yeah, we did. We did find out
they're in radio contact with other silos. Now the other silos are they're like generation ships, aren't they, Jared?
Yep. They're exactly like generation ships, but buried in the ground.
Yeah, they're like generation ships going through, or super slow time machines, I guess. But the people in charge, you spend a lot of your time with in this story, or at least half your time.
Oh, yeah.
These guys, there has to be consistency during the course of the slow journey into the future. The guys in the silos are going into the future 1 second at a time. But they have to maintain kind of a consistency in the design philosophy, the control philosophy, the way the place is run. So the principal prime base, if you will,
they work in shifts.
They work in shifts, and when they're not on shift, they're in a deep freeze.
Kind of like
like a sleeper ship instead of a generation ship.
Yeah, like in Pandorum.
Yeah,
they had like 5 crews that one would be on for a couple of years, go to sleep, another crew, and they leapfrog. Because you needed people who were trained to do what has to get done. You can't just be like, oh well, we'll train the next generation. No, they wanted to keep. You got to keep the people who know what's going on and what to do going. And don't tell me more about these shifts. But we see shifts from the master silo, which again you would find out about if you read Wool. Hopefully you've read Wool if you're starting on shift. There are they said shifts. Like it's like your work shift. Yeah,
just your couple of months down and a couple of decades off.
Yep. So they have people to do that, and that in itself has a lot of problems.
Oh, that becomes crazy town really fast.
Yeah.
That is super disorienting and fucked up, and everybody's on drugs to keep themselves level so that they don't freak out. Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to it too, and they really get into like what's going on, and
but they do point out the idea that, okay, why couldn't we just all go into sleeper pods and wake up later? Well, somebody's got to maintenance everything. Somebody has to constantly tinker with the gear, constantly be on guard to make sure shit doesn't break down. There are no robots. There are no androids. So you can't just put everyone in deep freeze. It's just impossible.
Well, because somebody has to, steer the ship, for lack of a better term.
Break it up a little.
Can you hear me now?
No. Now you're back.
Okay. Yeah, somebody has to, quote unquote, steer the ship.
Yes.
So the people in the, prime base, the master silo are steering the ship, and they tell you why they're in the book. They reveal why they're steering the ship and where the ship is going. So
no place good. Just when I thought it was so fucked up that I couldn't stand it, he keeps finding ways to make it more fucked uppest.
Oh yeah. Towards the end, towards the end of that part where they, because they're primarily focusing on. I'm hearing myself in your speakers. The primary protagonist is a guy who's like pre-apocalypse, through the apocalypse, and then eventually they come back to the post-apocalyptic era that we read about in Wool, and the one primary character that we read about in Wool, the engineer. What was her name?
I'm thinking of her as the sheriff because that's the job she gets later.
But
I'm blanking.
I can't remember her freaking name. Well, as we always say, it's
because I don't even think they mention it in Shift because they talk about her in like the third person.
Juliet. Thank you. Juliet. We come back to Juliet from Wool. As you know, as you read in Wool, she got out of the silo, found the other silo. We come back to Juliet. What's going on with her? What she does, and then there's other characters in Shift besides the early protagonist from the pre-apocalypse, and then you get Juliet, and then you get some other characters from and then towards the end of Shift, they're all cut up time-wise. They're all on the same page, and that's where it leaves off. And there's a lot of crap going on with that. So, but it's real good. The writing is excellent. You wouldn't think, when I first read Wool, I was like, it took me a while to get into it, but once I got into it, I was like, okay, this is a really good story. And then Shift, again, started off kind of like, I was a little bored at first, but then it's like, once he really got into the meat of the story, because, he did that slow build because he really he had to lay it out for you. He had to lay out what was going on, who's going on, who the players are, why things are going to happen. He's a very good writer, and he gives you just enough to keep you going.
Yeah. None of the reveals come. This could have been a giant info dump, and it's not.
No.
It's a prequel, and we know from Wool the state of the world that this is leading up to, right? Because we've read, but this prequel doesn't. It feels just as mysterious and just as opaque as the world of Wool. As our protagonist Donald goes into this world and advances from one terrible revelation to another.
Yeah, he's like falling down a ladder.
There's no happy endings for this guy. The amount of I've seen some characters get fucked over. This is a Job level of fucking. Okay, as far as all the horrible shit that happens to him, it's not good.
None of it is good.
Yeah. This is right up there with The Road as far as being grimo. It's pretty grimo.
Yeah, it's pretty grim. I think you need to lower your speakers because I'm hearing myself.
Okay. Well, you are not.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm not hearing any feedback. So good. Okay. Yeah. It's no. I keep on hearing you myself.
Let me take this out of my ear. Now you're saying that you didn't hear feedback when I didn't have the.
Now I don't hear any feedback.
Well, then I'm leaving one out.
All right. Yeah. It's on the level of Road Grim. It's not. Yeah. It's just. There's no good. There's no happy ending. It's like just the stuff he keeps on getting put up against. It's like what, and then it's like what. It just keeps worse and worse and worse.
And there's a point where you think there's kind of this point where there's almost no villains, and then there's a point where you realize no, that's wrong. They're completely evil motherfuckers.
Yeah.
It's assholes all the way down. It's just holy shit, and filled with lots of guys who are just doing their jobs,
which is part of the problem. It's it's not good.
Well, you don't get apocalypses or Holodomors or Holocausts or. Unless you got guys who are just doing their job, just clocking in.
Yeah, it's not. It's good. Like I said, I'm still hearing myself in your.
I'm not hearing you.
You're not hearing me at all.
I mean, I'm not hearing your feedback.
Oh no, I keep on hearing you. I'm just hoping it's not going out over the podcast because that's going to sound like crap.
Okay, I'm not hearing an echo from
Me.
you, and I'm not hearing an echo from me.
When I talk,
yeah,
I'm hearing me and you.
Okay. Ooh. Ugh.
I know.
I don't like the way that sounded.
Oh, I know it's going to mess up the audio, but no. But see, now it's stopped. So, all right. Okay, so don't touch anything. Just, but like I said, Shift. It seems to me it started off a little slow because they had to build the story, but it's worth the ride. It's worth your time going into it.
This thing's not pulp. It almost rises to the level of literature as far as its the richness and density of it.
Yeah.
Which could put some people off, but I think if you can make it through the road, you can make it through this.
Correct. Oh yeah, totally. Except it's not as minimalistic in its writing.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it is not. And there are questions yet unanswered by the time you get to the end of it. Absolutely.
Oh, there's always questions.
Let's see here. I did like the time the book spent with the guy who was the bearer, the guy who was carrying stuff from level to level. Mission.
Yep.
There's kind of an ant's eye view of the workings of a silo from somebody besides the Juliet character in the early parts of this book. And that was actually really interesting. The way that system worked of carry, the sort of, I don't know, the caste systems inside the silos are interesting as far as people's work, and their apprenticeships and their shadowing of people to
oh yeah, you really get to see the
It was definitely at a lower level. It wasn't as, I mean, the thing about Wool is you saw the machinations at the top level, the mayor, the sheriff, those people, the head of IT and all that. But the first part of Shift is a lot of it is set, or the mid part of Shift is set with the grunts, the guys whose job is carrying things from different levels, the farms, his father's a farmer, working the hydroponics. So you get a lot more of that, and that was also very interesting, at least to me.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you get to see the complexity. You get to see the society. You get to see the what the fuck's it?
Well, it's the caste level.
Thank you. The caste system.
One thing I also appreciated about this is, I mean, Jared and I are both gun nuts, so we always we certainly love information on firearms or weapons, but both books had almost no information about firearms because they come from a world where there aren't any brands. There's no Norinco or Colt or anything like that. It's just rifle, pistol, probably all standardized so that the parts are interchangeable and swappable. But there's no actual, brand names on them. Not the least of which because the present at the beginning of the story is like, what, 2038?
I think it's more like closer to 2050.
Okay.
2040, 2050.
Yeah, you're right. I just opened it up. 2049 is when Donald Keene gets his first meeting with the senator. So yeah, who knows what the brands of weapons will be then, what the designations on those weapons will be. Inside the silo, M16 has no meaning. You know what I mean? It's just a rifle.
Yeah, and I think it's good that they kept it kind of. That was a very good call on his part to, because I mean, you said we're gun nuts. It's like, I mean, I like firearms, I like gun, but don't class me in with the whack jobs that are out there and the rinky-dink,
malicious. Yeah, I know, but we both like the technology information. If something shows up like in a book, if they tell you what kind of car it is, I appreciate knowing. You know.
Oh
If they
yeah,
tell
yeah,
me
yeah.
if they tell me what kind of plane it is, I appreciate knowing. I've always enjoyed that in a story. A lot of people will just go, they get in the sedan and go, but I want to know that it's uh, uh, what kind of sedan is it? Is it a Mercedes? Is it is it an old Mercury? Whatever. I kind of like knowing that information.
Oh yeah.
This world that they're living in doesn't have those kind of designations anymore, so that it completely loses its meaning.
Well, because they don't really ever see weapons, so it's not. It's a very rare thing, but it's yeah, because it's not like like the pulp men's adventure novels.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's not gun porn. Like the Survivalist or something like that.
Oh yeah. Or Blank in the Ashes.
Or Greg Sargent's the Last Ranger, or
Yeah.
something like that. Um,
Hell, guns define character in those stories. Depending on what they're carrying, you know whether they're a good guy or a bad
oh
guy.
yeah, well, same thing with Deathlands. Ryan had his. Did he have a G3? I want to say he had.
G11. I want to say he had one of those caseless firing G11s
Yeah.
that never got off the ground in real life.
And then was it Meredith?
Which one had the Lamont? Then the guy from the 1860s has his Lamont.
Oh, that was Doc Tanner had the Lamont. Then he had the person who was like the sharpshooter from our time. She had like the Target 357. It's like they were defined by their guns, but this book doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So if you've read Wool, if you haven't read Wool, go read Wool, and then once you've read Wool, read Shift. Again, he's a contemporary writer. I mean, these books, he's self-published them initially, like 3-4 years ago, something like that.
A little longer than that, I think. 2013 is the date on this. So I'm presuming the self-publishing came out a couple years before that. So maybe he self-published in 2010 or 2011.
2011 and 2012. So
Okay.
it's still pretty contemporary compared to what we typically talk about. So I don't really think we could say much more about Shift. I don't.
Not without blowing every.
Yeah. I don't want to. This is something I really don't want to risk blowing any major spoilers on it, because there's a lot to reveal.
Oh yeah. This again, the layers of this onion. It's just assholes all the way down each layer.
Oh yeah.
Does not get any better.
So that was Shift, folks. Again, we spoke in some vagaries, but again, if you read the first one, again, very good writing, excellent story, and totally worth your read. It's not cheap. It's not cheap, cheesy, just like pulp novels, like men's adventure. I think it's a very well thought out and well written story. It's totally worth your time to read.
Absolutely. And here we have a guest appearance by one of the characters from Shift, Shadow the Cat, who turns up at some point.
And you'll have to read the story to find out.
You'll have to find out. Yes, if you want to know who Shadow is, you'll just have to read the book. Struggle.
And that was a very interesting part of that character.
Oh yeah, the
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's just say, don't be alone after the apocalypse. Okay, it always goes badly. It's one of the few things I really liked about was it called Passengers? Was the thing about the people on the generation ship where the guy gets unfrozen early and goes kind of stark raving mad on the ship. It was Chris Pratt.
I didn't see that because I heard it was bad.
It's got some problems. But they do this thing where he's unfrozen for like 2 years, going crazy by himself on the ship. Until at some point he's just got a giant beard and giant hair, and he's just walking around the ship naked at this point. He's completely given up, And that I'm like, yeah, after 2 years, it's not gonna go well with not even an animal, not a pet. The only thing that's on the ship is like an android butler who never or bartender that never leaves the bar because it's on a rail system behind the bar. That's programmed for light banter or whatever. But yeah, that doesn't work out so hot. It really doesn't.
Yeah, so you definitely see kind of that in the book. So
yeah, I thought they did a great job with that sequence.
Yeah. So that's a Shift, folks. So again, go out if you haven't read it, go out and read it. But you got to read. You need to read Wool first because you need to see where it's going. So hopefully you've read Wool first. Now you can read Shift. And now that we've talked about Shift, I could now go and listen to Dust. Because I've been doing the audiobook on that. So yeah. I didn't want to do Dust until we reviewed Shift. Because I didn't want to confuse I wanted to make sure I didn't want to have the other book in my head and get any points wrong, Right. But then as we were doing it, I'm like, you know what? We really can't talk too much about this because we're gonna mess it up,
All right, and we will always appreciate if people can suggest things for us to look into. I have some things. I have some young adult post-apocalypse I ran across a while back that I'd be interested in talking about, even if you haven't read them. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So we'll wrap this up. Like I said, folks. So that's Shift. We're glad to be back. Sorry for the big absences. As I looked, we haven't done a lot of shows this last year, but there's been so much going on. But we'll get back. We'll get back on track. We're going to line up, like we said, Fallen Lands. The guys from Fallen Lands talk about their board game. I want to listen to some more. I got to read some more books. I haven't been reading a lot of post-apocalyptics because I've been going through a lot of classic fantasy literature lately, like Fritz Lieber, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. I got through 6 of them. I haven't hit the 7th one yet because by the 6th one I got a little bored of it. It's like at first it was interesting, but
too formulaic.
It was interesting to see, because it definitely heavily influenced Dungeons and Dragons, and they even mentioned that in the books, or the Dungeons and Dragons books. But after a while, it gets to be where it's like, I was talking to some people. I was like, well, yeah, it seems it holds up well, but now that I've really read it, I'm like, nah, it doesn't hold up as well for me. I mean, even if I would have read it 30 years ago.
What about compared to Robert E. Howard's Conan stuff?
I've never read any of the Conan stuff either.
Okay.
So
okay,
it's writing from a different era.
Well, yeah. I mean, the one thing I noticed, you pull up that Andre Norton book and it's this thick. Right?
Yeah.
There is an economy of words. All these books are a lot smaller. I mean, the Elric stuff from Michael Moorcock looks like novellas compared to the stuff that's put out today. If you look at who our fantasy or our science fiction people are, writing on a different scale.
So yeah, I'm getting into reading some more books. Going to look into some more movies, and then we'll probably do some more general. We got to come up with some more general topics because early on in the show we did a lot of the generic topics. We talked about guns and food and this and that, and I thought I got to kind of look through it to see if something else we could talk about. We talked about music and communication. We talked about power. I think we hit all the high level topics. I'll have to see. Yeah, we got to dig deeper, see if we can find some more high level topics. But I also want to talk about specifics like movies, books, games. I think I want to come back to Gamma World again, like we said we would. Have another editions war. No, I'm going to...
let me point out that I showed people my library back here just recently.
Simon
and Ash came out here looking for an apartment. And when I showed him the library, the one thing Simon picked up off the shelf was the original Gamma World box. He didn't touch anything else. But when he saw that, he's like, can I open this? And I'm like, well, please, go right ahead. And I thought, Jared will like to know that. You immediately score points with Jared if the first thing you pick up is the Gamma World box set.
He's earned a lot of credit. So Yeah, so we'll come back to some other stuff. So we're gonna have another. I'm gonna try to keep us on track like every other week. So I'm gonna reach out to John for Fallen Lands, see if we could get him on sooner than later. If we can't, we'll talk about something else. We don't know what that is yet, and then
The world keeps ending. The world just keeps ending. You know what? Do you think the pandemic games count as apocalypses? With some of these new pandemic games, the way they're set up with season 1, season 2, you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know much about it, but I know a little bit about what the. I don't know.
Okay.
I'd have to look into it to make a decision on it.
Cool.
All right, folks. So we'll be back. I will make a post about the contest, probably within the next week, to win a copy of Andrea Nort's No Night Without Stars. And I'll get that posted. So that's it, folks. I'm Jared. I'm Scott. And he's Scott. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking with us. We're glad to be back, and we will see you in the Wastelands. Have a good night.